The Iranian plateau sits directly in the crosshairs of global empires. Over thousands of years, it has been invaded, shattered, and conquered by Greeks, Mongols, and Arabs. Yet, despite centuries of foreign occupation, the core identity of Iran never broke. To understand how they survived, we have to look back to the very beginning. By around 30,000 BC, the plateau was already home to some of the earliest human communities. Civilizations like Elam didn't begin with a single marching army. They developed gradually, organizing local populations into complex, decentralized city-states. That fragmented structure held until 550 BC, when a leader, Cyrus the Great, defeated neighboring kings and united the disparate Iranian tribes to form the vast Achaemenid Empire. His true innovation was his method of control. Instead of forcing his subjects to assimilate, he allowed local religions and customs to continue and permitted exiled peoples to return home and rebuild their temples. This tolerance was a highly pragmatic administrative tool. Granting local autonomy was the only flexible way to govern a massive, deeply diverse plateau. Under Cyrus's successors, particularly Darius I, the empire hyper-centralized. They built a sprawling administrative network covering 5.5 million square kilometers, held together by standardized taxes, massive road systems, and provinces known as satrapies. The sheer wealth generated by this system flowed directly into their imperial capital, where ambassadors from Egypt, Greece, and India arrived simply to present tribute. That immense concentration of power made the state a prime target. In 330 BC, Alexander the Great invaded, burning the capital and splintering the massive Persian state into a fragmented Hellenistic world. The foreign rule proved fragile. By the mid-3rd century BC, a new Iranian power emerged, the Parthians. They successfully halted Roman expansion by entirely abandoning the massive central bureaucracy, relying instead on regional noble families and localized autonomy. The Achaemenids proved Iran could project massive centralized power, while the Parthians proved it could survive through localized defense. This structural pendulum, the ability to swing between intense centralization and fragmented autonomy, became Iran's foundational survival mechanism. Fast forward to the 7th century AD, the highly centralized Sasanian Empire had exhausted its military and economy in a grueling 400-year conflict with Rome. Weakened and drained, they were rapidly overrun by Muslim Arab armies. The political state was destroyed, but the cultural foundation held firm. The Persian language adapted, reviving itself in the Arabic script, and Iranian scientists and poets eventually drove what historians call the Islamic Golden Age. In the 13th century, Turkic Seljuks and Mongol hordes swept across Central Asia and into the Iranian plateau with devastating speed, leveling entire cities in their wake. These nomadic invaders brought overwhelming military force, but lacked the complex networks to actually run these dense societies. Without their own bureaucracies, they adopted Persian administrative systems. Soon, Mongol leaders were patronizing Persian artists and converting to Islam. This is Iran's defining historical mechanism. Its cultural gravity is so dense that it absorbs its conquerors, neutralizing foreign military threats by pulling the invaders into its own identity. By 1501, the region was ripe for a new unifying force, leading to the birth of the Safavid Empire. The Safavids made a decision that severed Iran from its neighbors. They declared Twelver Shia Islam the official religion of the state. This religious boundary, combined with their ancient Persian roots, triggered an economic and artistic revival. Under Shah Abbas I, the state channeled its wealth into monumental public squares, grand mosques, and an explosion of global trade. The Safavids hard-coded a new dual identity into the region. They forged a state that was ancient Persian in its cultural administration and fiercely Shia in its religion, the exact framework that defines the modern Iranian state. By the late 18th century, the Qajar dynasty took the throne, facing a completely different kind of foreign threat. Expanding European empires, specifically Russia in the north and the United Kingdom in the south, were not looking to assimilate. They wanted economic exploitation and political control. The Iranian public pushed back against this external pressure. In 1906, they launched a constitutional revolution, demanding a national parliament and the rule of law. Fearing a strong, independent state, the British and Russians backed the monarchy to crush the movement. The tension peaked in 1951 when a charismatic prime minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, took a drastic step to secure Iranian sovereignty. He nationalized the British-controlled oil industry. The retaliation was swift and covert. In 1953, the CIA and British intelligence orchestrated Operation Ajax, a secret coup that overthrew Mossadegh. With Western backing, the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was restored to absolute power. Armed with American military aid, he launched rapid modernization programs that enriched political elites and silenced dissent using a feared secret police force. Unlike the Arab or Mongol conquerors of the past, the Western powers treated Iran purely as an extraction zone. This generated deep, festering resentment across a population that had successfully protected its autonomy for millennia. The disconnect between the ruling elite and the public became undeniable in 1971. The Shah spent enormous sums hosting a lavish celebration of 2,500 years of Persian monarchy, while much of the country struggled with poverty. Opposition coalesced around an exiled cleric, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Smuggling his recorded speeches into the country on cassette tapes, he framed the Shah as a corrupt tyrant completely dependent on the United States. By 1978, those tapes drove a nationwide uprising. Millions of Iranians took to the streets. The regime's military response failed to stop the momentum, and in early 1979, the monarchy collapsed. The newly formed Islamic Republic immediately reshaped its foreign policy around Khomeini's principle of neither East nor West. Relations with Washington disintegrated entirely following the takeover of the U.S. Embassy and the subsequent hostage crisis. Decades later, under the leadership of Ali Khamenei, Iran maintains this aggressively independent posture, engaging in a mix of confrontational diplomacy and tense negotiations over its nuclear program. The modern Iranian state is the product of a 5,000-year stress test. A culture that survived antiquity by absorbing the conquerors who settled there, now fiercely rejects the modern powers that refuse to assimilate.